Stop scrolling. There's a plant on this list at number 1 that researchers have studied for its effect on anxiety, and almost nobody grows it because they don't know it survives in a 5-gallon pot. If you've ever felt off and reached for coffee, sugar, or your phone instead of fixing the actual problem, this video is going to change your patio forever. I'm building a calm garden. 15 container plants, ranked, that herbalists and growers swear by for taking the edge off a hard day. Stick around, because number 1 is not what you think it is, and number 4 comes with a warning for a reason. Quick disclaimer before we dig in. This is botanical and gardening information, not medical advice. Several of these plants interact with medications or aren't safe for pets, and I'll flag every single one. Always check with a doctor before using any herb medicinally, especially if you're on prescriptions. Let's get into it. Starting at number 15, the Meyer lemon tree. Citrus doesn't just flavor your cooking. The scent alone does something to your nervous system, and we're starting the list with the easiest one to grow. You'll want a 15-gallon heavy plastic pot, since plastic holds moisture better than terracotta and citrus roots are thirsty. Use a slightly acidic citrus mix, heavily cut with perlite for drainage, and start from a grafted nursery tree rather than a seed, which can take years. Give it full sun, a minimum of 8 hours, the sunniest spot you've got. Water deeply until it runs out the bottom, then let the top 3 inches go bone dry before watering again. Feed every 2 months with a high nitrogen citrus fertilizer. Harvest comes in late autumn, with bright yellow, intensely fragrant fruit. The trick most people miss is that it's not just about eating the lemons. Zest the peel and crush a few fresh leaves into your morning tea. The citrus oils released that way are part of why this tree has a reputation as a natural mood lifter in aromatherapy circles. One warning though, below USDA Zone 8, this tree will not survive a frost. If a freeze is coming, it comes inside, no exceptions. Here's a fun fact. The Meyer lemon isn't a true lemon at all. It's a happy accident, a natural cross between a citron and a mandarin pomelo hybrid, discovered in China in 1908. At number 14, the Rose-Scented Geranium. This one's a sleeper hit. It looks like a regular geranium. It is not. Use a 5-gallon englazed terracotta pot, since the porous clay keeps roots oxygenated, and fill it with poor, sandy, almost cactus-like soil. Start from a live cutting, not
seed. Give it morning sun, with shade in the brutal afternoon. Let it dry out almost completely, then soak. Don't fertilize at all, since rich soil kills the fragrance and the plant gets lazy and stops producing the oils that make it worth growing. Harvest continues all summer. Just pinch the leaves and the tiny pink flowers as needed. Steep the leaves for a floral tea, or use them to flavor baked goods. Herbalists have used the scent for generations as a calming agent. It smells like rose, but the chemistry behind it is its own thing entirely. One critical note. The oils are toxic to dogs and cats, so keep this pot up high, away from curious noses. Here's a fun fact. In the 1700s, perfumers in Europe used this plant's oil to fake the impossibly expensive scent of true rose oil and fooled royal courts for decades doing it. At number 13, pineapple sage. If you've never smelled a leaf that genuinely smells like fresh pineapple, this is the plant that's going to ruin you for regular sage. Use a 10-gallon fabric grow bag because this thing gets big, and fill it with rich, loamy, compost-heavy soil. Give it full sun. Unlike most sage, this one's thirsty, so keep it consistently moist or the leaves scorch. Feed monthly with a balanced liquid fertilizer. Harvest the leaves from midsummer and the brilliant red flowers in late autumn. Muddle the leaves into iced tea or fruit salad for a tropical hit. In traditional Mexican herbal use, this plant has a long history as comfort medicine, something brewed during hard times, not just for flavor. Here's a fun fact. Those red tubular flowers aren't just pretty. They're shaped specifically to fit hummingbird beaks. Grow this and you will have hummingbirds, guaranteed. At number 12, lavender. No calm garden list is complete without it, and almost nobody grows it in containers correctly. Use a 5-gallon terracotta pot, since drainage is everything with lavender, and fill it with sandy, alkaline, fast-draining soil, adding grit if your soil is heavy. Give it full sun, as much as you can. Water sparingly. Lavender would rather be too dry than too wet, and overwatering is the #1 killer. Feed lightly just once a season since this plant thrives on neglect. Harvest in early to mid-summer, right when the buds are just opening, which is peak oil concentration. Dry the buds for tea, sachets, or to scatter in a bath. The scent has one of the longest folk medicine track records of any plant on this list for easing restlessness before bed. Here's a fun fact. Lavender's name comes from the Latin word for to wash. Romans scented their bathwater with it over 2,000 years ago. At number 11, Ashwagandha. Here's the logic. Before you can feel calm, you have to get stress out of the way, and this is the plant built for that job. Use a 10-gallon plastic pot, deep for the taproot, and fill it with poor, sandy, fast-draining soil that mimics its native dry climate. Start from seed, sown a 1/4 inch deep. Only once summer heat arrives. Give it the hottest, most blazing spot you've got. Let it dry out completely between waterings, and avoid high nitrogen fertilizer, which grows leaves at the expense of the root you actually want. Harvest comes in late autumn, about 5 months in, once the berries turn red and the foliage dies back. Dig up the
roots, dry them, and grind to a powder. Mix the powder into warm milk with honey before bed. It's one of the most studied adaptogenic herbs in the world for stress support. One critical note. It's in the nightshade family and stimulates the immune system. So if you have an autoimmune condition or thyroid disorder, skip this one or talk to a doctor first. Here's a fun fact. Ashwagandha literally translates from Sanskrit to smell of horse, both for the root's pungent odor and the old belief that it gave you the strength of a stallion. At number 10, Schisandra Berry. Now we go cold climate. If lemon trees and ashwagandha need heat, Schisandra wants the opposite, and it rewards you with one of the strangest berries you'll ever taste. Use a 15-gallon fabric grow bag with a rigid trellis installed from day one, since this is a serious climbing vine. Use acidic, rich soil amended with peat and pine bark. Give it dappled partial shade, protecting it from harsh afternoon sun. Keep it consistently moist, never letting it fully dry. Feed twice a season with an acid-loving fertilizer. Harvest comes in late summer, when the berry clusters turn deep crimson. Dry the berries and steep for a ruby red tea, traditionally used as a caffeine-free way to sharpen focus without the crash. One note, it affects how the liver processes medication, so check with a doctor if you're on prescriptions. Here's a fun fact. In Chinese medicine, it's called the 5-flavor berry, because biting into a raw one hits sweet, salty, bitter, pungent, and sour all at once. It is genuinely disorienting the first time. At number 9, Ginkgo Biloba. Growing an ancient tree on your patio sounds absurd. It's not, and this is one of the most fascinating plants on earth. Use a 10-gallon thick plastic or ceramic pot to insulate the root from freezing, and fill it with well-draining soil amended with coarse sand. Start from a grafted 2-year-old sapling, since growing from seed takes a decade you don't have. Give it full sun. Water with a deep soak, then leave it alone until the top 2 inches dry. Feed once a year in spring with a slow-release granular fertilizer. Harvest in late summer to early autumn, before the leaves turn gold. Pluck them, dry them, and steep into a light tea. One critical warning here. Ginkgo is a natural blood thinner. Combining it with anticoagulants, aspirin, or having it before surgery can cause serious bleeding complications. This is not a minor warning. Take it seriously. Here's a fun fact. Ginkgo is a living fossil, the last surviving member of a plant order that's over 270 million years old. This tree's ancestors were already ancient when the dinosaurs went extinct. At number 8, Rhodiola Rosea. This is a golden root, and it might be the toughest plant on this entire list to keep alive in the wrong conditions, but get it right and it's one of the most respected adaptogens in herbal medicine. Use a wide, shallow 5-gallon clay pot, filled with rocky, barren cactus mix and crushed gravel. Start from a dormant root crown rather than seed, since cold stratification requirements make seed starting brutal. Give it cool morning sun, with shade in the afternoon heat. Treat it like a desert succulent, watering only when the pot feels
weightless. Never fertilize, since rich soil rots the crown. Harvest is a genuine test of patience, 3 to 4 years before the root system matures. Dig up in late autumn and dry the rhizomes. Decoct the dried root in boiling water for a slightly bitter, floral tea, traditionally used to build resilience, to stress over time. One note. Because it's stimulating, drinking this tea late in the day can cause restlessness or insomnia, so morning use only. Here's a fun fact. Viking warriors reportedly consumed raw Rhodiola root before battle, crediting it with their legendary stamina and nerve. At number 7, Clary Sage. This one has a 1,000-year-old nickname, and the story behind it is better than you'd expect. Use a 7-gallon fabric grow bag for airflow, since fungal disease is the enemy here, filled with sandy, well-aerated soil. Start from seed, press gently into damp soil in early spring. Give it full sun. Water deeply but infrequently, waiting until the leaves just start to wilt. Feed lightly with phosphorus fertilizer at the start of year 2 to fuel the flower spike. Harvest comes in midsummer of the second year, when the flower spikes are in full bloom and coated in aromatic resin. Steep the dried flowers for a musky, aromatic tea, long used by herbalists to ease tension, particularly around the menstrual cycle. One critical note. The concentrated essential oil, not the tea, is a strong sedative. Never combine it with alcohol, since the two compound each other dangerously. Here's a fun fact. In the Middle Ages, the seed's sticky mucilage was used to clear debris from the eye, earning it the name clear eye, which slowly became clary. At number 6, Maca. If you want energy without the caffeine crash, this Andean root has a 2,000-year head start on the conversation. Use a 7-gallon fabric grow bag, deep and loose, filled with light, sandy soil completely free of clay or rock. Give it full sun, but only during cooler months since Maca hates summer heat. Water consistently but lightly, never letting water pool at the bottom of the bag. No fertilizer needed, since it grows in barren soil in the wild. Harvest is surprisingly fast, 90 to 100 days. Once the foliage yellows and dies back, pull the whole plant. Dry and grind into a malty, butterscotch-flavored powder, traditionally blended into smoothies for sustained energy. One note. Raw maca contains compounds that can affect thyroid function in large amounts, so cook or gelatinize it before regular use. Here's a fun fact. Maca grows at elevations above 13,000 feet in Peru, making it the highest altitude food crop cultivated anywhere on Earth. We're in the top 5 now. If this list has been useful so far, hit subscribe right now because the next 4 plants include one with a genuine cult following and one most people have never heard of. Drop your guess for number 1 in the comments before we get there.
At number 5, Passionflower, a genuine surprise pick. This vine is one of the most studied calming herbs in clinical herbalism, and almost nobody grows it on a patio. Use a 10-gallon pot with a trellis, since this vine wants to climb, filled with rich, well-draining loam. Give it full sun to partial shade. Keep regular, consistent moisture, and don't let it dry out completely. Feed monthly with a balanced fertilizer during the growing season. Harvest comes in late summer into fall, both the leaves and the strange, otherworldly flowers. Dried leaves and flowers steep into a tea that's been used for generations to quiet a racing mind before sleep. Here's a fun fact. The flower gets its name from Spanish missionaries in South America, who saw the structure of its bloom as a symbol of the crucifixion. The passion refers to that religious meaning, not romance. At number 4, Damiana. This is a plant with a warning I mentioned at the start. Here's why. Use a 5-gallon englazed terracotta pot, since fast drying is essential, filled with rocky, sandy cactus mix. Start from a rooted cutting, since seed germination rates are poor. Give it the hottest, sunniest spot on your patio. Treat it like a cactus, keeping it bone dry before watering. No fertilizer required. Harvest comes in late summer, in full bloom. Dry the small serrated leaves and yellow flowers. Steep for a pungent, fig-like tea, long used in Mexican herbal tradition for easing social anxiety and lifting mood. One critical note. This plant has hypoglycemic effects. If you're diabetic and on insulin, it can drop your blood sugar dangerously low, so talk to a doctor before using it. Here's a fun fact. Long before Spanish colonization, the Meyer brewed Damiana into a ceremonial drink reserved for sacred rituals. It wasn't an everyday plant. It was a special occasion one. 3 left. At number 3, Holy Basil, also known as Tulsi. This one is sacred in its home country for a reason. It's been used for thousands of years as a plant you turn to when stress won't let go. Use a 5-gallon pot of any material, filled with rich, well-draining potting mix. Give it full sun. Keep consistent moisture, but make sure it's well-draining, since you don't want roots sitting wet. Feed lightly once a month during active growth. Harvest is continuous. Pinch leaves all season, which also encourages bushier growth. Fresh or dried leaves steep into a peppery, clove-like tea that's a staple of Ayurvedic stress relief. Here's a fun fact. In Hindu tradition, Tulsi is considered sacred enough that it's often planted at the center of a home's courtyard, believed to purify the air around it. Before number 1, we need to talk about the plant that's been making humans happy for 3,000 years, completely unprocessed. At number 2, cacao. Use a 15-gallon heavy plastic pot, filled with rich, loamy, acidic soil, heavy on peat moss and compost. Start from a live grafted sapling, since you can't grow this from a grocery store bean. Give it deep shade, high humidity, and protection from wind. Keep it consistently damp, never waterlogged, and mist the leaves daily. Feed monthly with a high nitrogen organic fertilizer. Harvest takes 3 to 4
years to maturity, and you'll need to hand-pollinate the flowers yourself, since your patio doesn't have the specific midges that do it in the wild. Harvest the pods with a machete, then ferment and roast the beans. Raw cacao contains a compound nicknamed the bliss molecule, after the Sanskrit word for joy, which is part of why a piece of real dark chocolate feels like more than just a snack. One critical note. Raw cacao is toxic to dogs and cats, so keep it locked away from pets, always. Here's a fun fact. The Aztec Empire valued cacao beans so highly they used them as actual currency. 100 beans could buy you a turkey. And the number 1 spot on our calm garden list. Chamomile. Not what you expected, right? Here's why it earns the top spot. It's the single most accessible, most studied, easiest to grow calming herb that exists, and almost everyone underestimates it because it's too common. Use any 1 to 2 gallon pot, since chamomile barely needs room, filled with average, well-draining potting soil. Start from seed, scattered on the surface in spring, since it needs light to germinate, so don't bury it. Give it full sun to partial shade. Water moderately, letting the top inch dry between waterings. It rarely needs feeding, since this plant is famously low maintenance. Harvest continues through summer. Pick the small daisy-like flowers right when they're fully open every few days for the strongest tea. Dry the flowers and steep for the single most well-known calming tea on the planet, and for good reason. Generations of herbalists and a long list of modern studies point to chamomile as one of the gentlest, safest ways to wind down before sleep. Here's a fun fact. Chamomile was so valued in ancient Egypt that it was dedicated to the sun god Ra and used in early mummification rituals for its scent. That's the full list. 15 plants you can grow in containers, no matter how small your patio is, all built around one idea.
Calm isn't something you have to buy.
Sometimes it's something you grow. Which one are you planting first? Tell me in the comments, and if you've already grown any of these, I want to hear how it went. If this video helped you, smash that like button and subscribe to Livestock Labs right now, because next week's video is one you do not want to miss, and if you're not subscribed, you will. I'll see you in the next one. Happy growing!